It's Sports Radio 610's interview with Dennis Quaid. Well, welcome, Dennis.
KILT, right? 610's?
That's right.
Remember, it used to be pop radio, went to country.
That's right.
Now Sports Radio.
Now Sports Radio. We still have the country station on FM 100.3, and we thank you for being with us today. So the Express opens this weekend. What was it like making that movie for you?
Incredible experience. I myself didn't even know about the Ernie Davis story. I knew the name, but I didn't really know the story before I read the script, and it was a story that really needed to be told, I think. And it's more the sports movie, which is my criteria for doing a sports movie. I've done several of them, and if you're doing a football movie, it's got to be about more than football. Otherwise, watch a game.
Right.
When you were doing this one, you mentioned the fact that you've done a lot of sports movies in the past. Maybe your favorite to this point?
My favorite that I've done, I really have to say that I really love The Express. I really does because it's so much more than just about football. You know, it's about really what it comes down to in the end. It's about living your life gracefully, and if God sheds His grace upon you, about using your life to great effect. It's just as important how you attain your dreams as attaining your dreams. And Ernie Davis embodied that short life, incredible life.
So you were on the set of Any Given Sunday playing Cap, that quarterback. And Jim Brown was on the set, and here's Jim Brown getting replaced by Ernie Davis in the story. How much did Jim Brown help you out with this role?
Jim Brown was a treasure trove for me, because we'd done Any Given Sunday on set, and he's a straight talker. Arguably, he should have won the Heisman Trophy 3 years before. At the very same Cotton Bowl too, he and Coach Schwartzwalder, who I play in the film, butted heads quite a bit over racial issues, in fact. And along came Ernie, and Ernie had this quiet grace about him. And Jim has said himself, he said, back and looking back on this civil rights movement, we had radicals and we had peacemakers, and we needed both. And I guess I was a radical, and Ernie was a peacemaker in a sense. And Ernie and Schwartzwalder wound up having this sort of father-son relationship. And Schwartzwalder was a old school, tough as nails coach, and he was one of the first coaches to actively recruit African Americans to his team. But at the same time, in today's terms, you consider him a racist, really. So he was a man of his time. It's like most of America back then, there were lines that just didn't get crossed. And but Ernie changed that in a very profound way. Stayed with him all his life.
Seeing the movie, I thought you mentioned Jim Brown and his presence in the movie, and as I tell friends about the movie, that there was a Jim Brown's presence in the movie, but not so much that it overshadowed the story of Ernie Davis. Was that something that maybe you guys were conscious of as the movie was being made?
Well, we were telling the Ernie Davis story, and Jim Brown is really a powerful figure himself. In fact, Jim Brown chose Daryl, the guy who plays him, in movie.
And he's larger than life.
Yeah. He did a great job too, and he was instrumental to us. And Jim's seen the film, and he loves the film. He's quite taken.
Like you said, you've been in a lot of sports movies. When you're making a movie like The Express, the football scenes, for the sports fans listening and watching, how painstaking a process is that to make it look as real as possible, yet to have those dramatic effects like the fluttering of the football through the air, that sound effect, things like that. We know there's a lot of waiting involved with making motion pictures, but to make football scenes must be very difficult to make them look realistic.
Yeah, and you have to, they've been shot so many times, you have to do them in a new way as well, and Alan Graff was the director of the football sequences on this. He did Any Given Sunday, he did Friday Night Lights, and he really knows what he's doing, especially, getting it to look like 1959,
Right.
He had to, he had to get everybody, block blocking with their shoulders rather than their helmets too, you know, and it had to kind of retrain everybody again, and to get that look right.
What in playing a role in the coach in this movie, and there were a lot of different issues and things going on at that period of time. What did you learn as the actor in this deal about the whole overall, I guess, process of the movie, and maybe something that may have kind of just struck home with you in doing the Ernie Davis story?
Well, you know, for me, the movie is a look back at the way we used to be, you know, with racial tension in this country, and it speaks to how far we've come today. It really does, and still about how far we still have where we have yet to go. And personally, for me, it was to look back, you know, revive memories of growing up here in Houston, where I remember separate restrooms, you know, separate drinking fountains. It would just be a simple sign that said "colored" on it, you know, and what that represented. And that was just the way things were back then. You know, nobody questioned it. And it wasn't just here in Texas; it was institutionalized all over this country, really. And people who are, you know, between 35 under 40, I've seen the film and are shocked. Is that the way things really used to be? Yeah, it is the way things used to be.
Yeah, it seems so long ago, yet it's really not that many years ago when you look at it. Early 60s, we're talking about the context for this film. The roles you play, Ben Schwartzwalder is obviously an outstanding role, and I'm sure it's one that you're excited to play. As you get a little older, those kinds of opportunities change for you. Discuss that for us a little bit.
What, as far as
the kind of roles you can play?
Oh, I can't. I'm not going to
play in your 20s.
I think my playing days in football are over. You know, they actually never were. I just played one of the movies, by the way. I mean, I went out for the Bel Air High School team. I was small, got laughed off the field. That's how I wound up in drama.
Didn't you take a real hit in Everybody's All-American when you were in a Broadway?
Yeah, I broke my collarbone.
Okay.
Tim Fox, the human missile, on the very last take, the very last hit that I had to take, got my collarbone.
And they kept what you see on film is you getting hurt, and they kept that look of surprise.
Fantastic. Nice home movie.
Can't get
Good acting.
any better
the insurance company.
The actual lick itself.
Yeah. But that does change over the years, of course.
It's easier to be a coach. You know, you're on the sidelines, you just tell them to run laps, and they'll stand around in the cleats, you know, from 1959 and the pads for 14 hours a day. It's easier.
Be tough. How much time did you spend on the Syracuse campus?
Well, actually none, because I was coming from a film that I was just finished in Canada and came right to Chicago, where we shot the majority of the film and all of my sequences, and then after that they went to Syracuse to shoot some exteriors, but none of Archibald Stadium is now, you know, a dome, and there's the facilities, and they don't really have the infrastructure there at Syracuse to support a large film crew.
You mentioned the fact that Jim Brown had some input in the film. How much did Ernie Davis's family, how much input?
You know, I know John Hancock talked to, you know, some of Ernie's family and friends, and you know, Floyd Little, who was, and you know, so they were all there at the premiere as well, which was pretty amazing to get all those people together. In fact, Floyd Little got up and spoke. But the whole team was there, and Floyd Little got up and said, "I have based my entire life on Ernie Davis." He said, "Whenever I have a difficult decision or a tough time comes up in my life, I say, what would Ernie do?" That's quite a testament to somebody. They had that kind of profound effect on him.
I remember the conversation. It obviously started at their first meeting when he was being recruited, and Ernie kind of passed along the advice that, you know, you can't just be like me, you got to be better than I was.
Yeah.
I guess that stuck with Floyd for the remainder of his life.